fruit crumble. It's something that you can make from pretty much any fruit you've got in your fridge. Really, I've even made it with bananas sometimes, although, you know, they get a little mushy. You could use any, certainly a cooking apple. Cooking apples were developed so that they break down easily and they have lots of flavor when they're cooked. I don't even bother to peel. A lot of recipes say to peel stuff, but I think the peeling's delicious. So I've quartered them, and then when you're cutting, you can just cut them into slices that are maybe like a couple centimeters thick. However you cut them, just make sure they're fairly small and they're all more or less the same size. I usually just get a bunch of stuff and cut it up because it's just all about lots of fruit with lots of topping, and you can just kind of play around with that. Like sometimes you just have leftover stuff in your fridge, you can cut it all up and just put it in. Then you're adding a couple tablespoons of, I'm using cane sugar, but we'll take a couple tablespoons of the cane sugar and a couple tablespoons of cornstarch, because what that does is these apples are going to release a lot of juice, and the cornstarch is a thickening agent, so that'll help to keep all the juice and all the sugar and stuff on the apples instead of having it all run to the bottom, and then the apples aren't seasoned as well as they could be. So cornstarch. And the one thing about cornstarch is you always want to make sure it's in a recipe that it's cooked long enough. Like this will be cooking for half an hour, that'll be plenty long enough. Otherwise it has this strange raw taste. A couple tablespoons of lemon juice. So I always use fresh. To get the most juice out of a lemon is to have it at room temperature and then to roll it back and forth. That breaks up the little juice sacs inside here, so you get the maximum amount of juice out of it. So a couple tablespoons of lemon juice. This should be just about, yeah, it smells fantastic. Yeah, it's just about right. And so I've got all that stuff and the fruit, and then you just give it a really good toss. And this will also shrink down quite a bit by the time it's baked. This is a great way to use up bruised things too. I'm using a vegan margarine just because I wanted to try using a recipe that was purely vegan for people who don't eat dairy. So each one of these sticks is about half a cup, which makes it very easy. So there's 3/4 of a cup of butter or margarine and half a cup of brown sugar, half a cup of that. And when you measure brown sugar, you always press it down, so you want it compacted. Like with white sugar or anything like that, you just pour it in, but with this you press it down to get the correct amount. And a half a cup of spelt or whole wheat flour. Everybody can eat this. So I'm going to put in about, what is this, half a cup of the spelt flour. And the joy of working with something like a fruit crumble is you don't have to be dead accurate like you would be with a cake. You want to stay away from anything like rye or buckwheat that has a really, really strong flavor, because it will really flavor the whole thing. So half a cup of this. About half a cup of oats, and use whole oats rather than quick oats or instant. Instant will give you kind of like a pudding. If you want, in a pinch, you can use all flour. It will just make it more, not quite as nubbly and crunchy. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. So you just need a little bit. Like, it's funny, it seems odd to be putting salt into something sweet, but it brings out the flavors of everything. So unless you've got an issue with salt, it's a really good thing to do. Just a little tiny bit, so that's a 1/4 teaspoon. That goes in there. And then a half a cup of almonds. You want to chop them up so that they're not super fine, but fine enough so that you with every bite you're going to get lots of almond taste in them. So you want this to be at room temperature so it's quite soft. With margarine it's not such an issue, it generally is soft, but if you're using butter it can be rock hard if it's right out of the fridge. So you just go in and start mashing this all around, crumble it over the top so it's more or less all over the fruit in small chunks. Steamed broccoli with a spicy almond sauce and tamari roasted seeds on rice noodles. This dish with the broccoli is being served over just white rice noodles. I don't even bother to boil them. I just pour boiling water over them and let them sit, and I find, because they go from being underdone to being totally mushy in about, you know how it is. So this way you can kind of keep an eye on them and have them at the right consistency. I like them when they're still just a little bit springy rather than being super soft. If you find, if you do this technique where you take boiling water and pour it over them, that by the time you're ready for them they're not quite cooked, you can always just give them a quick shot, like boil them for like 30 seconds or a minute. But I think this works pretty well. This water is just going to be boiling for the broccoli. I just want to have it hot so it's ready. So just leave those guys like that. This is going to be topped with one of my favorite things, which are seeds that have been roasted and then sprinkled with tamari. A cup of pumpkin seeds. Medium-high heat with your pan. Cast iron is ideal because of the way it can toast things so effectively, but this is a non-stick because that's what's here. So you pop these into a dry pan. Don't put any oil or anything into it. And as the seeds burn, it doesn't take too long for them to start to brown. And what you want to do is just get them so that they're a nice, there'll be a few little dark ones, but a nice even toasty brown. Maybe a couple of teaspoons of tamari, which is just a naturally brewed soy sauce. You see this mix. So that's about 2 teaspoons or so. Oh, that's perfect. And it takes the, like raw broccoli has this weird kind of squeaky quality when you eat it. It's a bit dry, and this really helps to bring it, bring the flavors out. It's much more tender and juicy. Canola oil, which is good for medium to high heat. So with garlic, a good way to get rid of the outer peel is to just take the flat of your knife and give it a little bash like that, and then the skin just comes right off. Cashew butter, which is amazing. So you're going to be taking about half a cup. All the rest of this stuff to the pan.